you will hear the truth. From me. A millionaire's accusation threatens to destroy an innocent woman's life. But in the silent courage of an 8-year-old boy, justice finds its voice. Catherine Miller's mansion looked like a palace standing tall over the quiet New York suburbs. Marble floors, golden chandeliers, imported furniture, and a private art gallery made it feel less like a home and more like a museum. Catherine was a widow, living alone after her husband's death, and she guarded her wealth like a lioness guards her cubs. On that morning, Catherine stood in front of her dressing table, staring at the empty velvet box where her most precious possession used to be, a diamond necklace worth more than $500,000. Her heart raced, her breath grew heavy, and panic turned into rage within seconds. She stormed into the hallway, her heels clicking sharply against the marble floor. The staff froze as they saw her face twisted with fury. "Who was in my room yesterday?" Catherine's voice echoed like thunder. The butler, an old man with shaky hands, tried to calm her. "Madam, only Ruth came for the cleaning." Ruth Johnson, the black maid who had been working there for 3 years. A quiet, hard-working woman who never raised her voice and never looked her employer in the eye for too long. She was known for her discipline and honesty. But none of that mattered in this moment. Catherine's eyes narrowed. "Call her now." Within minutes, Ruth appeared, wearing her plain gray uniform, her hands smelling faintly of cleaning soap. She looked surprised to see everyone staring at her. "Madame, is something wrong?" she asked softly. Catherine stepped closer, her voice sharp as a blade. "Yes, something is wrong. My diamond necklace is missing, and you were the last person near it." Ruth's heart skipped a beat. She shook her head quickly. "No, madam. I did not touch it. I only cleaned the shelves and polished the mirrors. I swear, I have never even thought about stealing." But Catherine was already convinced. Her anger mixed with prejudice, creating a storm. She pointed at Ruth. "You think I do not see? You live in poverty. You struggle to raise that little boy of yours. And you expect me to believe you never felt tempted? I trusted you, Ruth, and this is how you repay me." Ruth's lips trembled. "Madame, please, do not accuse me of something I did not do. My son. He believes his mother is honest. I cannot let him see me as a thief." But Catherine's pride was louder than Ruth's truth. Without a second thought, she called the police. When the officers arrived, they searched Ruth's small room inside the mansion. They found nothing. No jewelry, no evidence, no hidden money. Still, Catherine's word was heavier than Ruth's silence. "Arrest her," Catherine ordered. The sound of handcuffs clicking shut was like a hammer on Ruth's soul. She cried out, "Please, my son. Someone must look after him." At the doorway stood David, her 8-year-old boy. His big brown eyes were filled with tears. His small fists clenched as he watched his mother being dragged away like a criminal. "Mama," he shouted, his voice breaking the cold air. Ruth turned one last time and forced a weak smile. "Be brave, David. Remember, your mother is not a thief." But deep down, she feared that the world would never let her prove it. The police station smelled of old papers and cigarette smoke. Ruth sat in a small room under the harsh white light, her wrists still sore from the handcuffs. An officer flipped through files and asked the same questions again and again. "Where were you when the necklace disappeared?" "In the hallway, dusting the furniture." "Do you have any idea who could have taken it?" "No, sir, but it was not me." The officer leaned back. Unimpressed, Mrs. Miller trusts you enough to let you clean her bedroom. That means you had access. No one else touched that jewelry box. Why should we believe you?" Ruth's eyes filled with tears, but she refused to break. "Because I am telling the truth. I have worked hard my whole life. I clean houses, I wash clothes, I take care of my son. That necklace means nothing to me. My son's smile is more precious than any diamond." The officer wrote something in his notes, but his face remained cold. For him, Ruth was just another suspect from the poor side of the city. Outside the room, David sat on a wooden bench, swinging his legs nervously. His small voice kept whispering to anyone who would listen, "My mama is not a thief. She would never steal." But no one paid attention. To them, he was just a child who did not understand how the world worked. Hours passed. Ruth was finally allowed to see her son. The guard opened the door, and David ran into her arms, crying. She hugged him tightly, trying to give him strength even though she felt broken inside. "David, listen to me," she whispered. "No matter what they say, you must believe in me. I am innocent." "I know, Mama," David said through his tears. "I know you didn't do it. I will help you." Ruth smiled weakly, brushing his hair with her fingers. "You are just a child. The world will not listen to you." But David shook his head firmly. "They will. Because I saw something. I remember." Ruth looked at him in surprise. But before she could ask more, the guard pulled David away. Visiting time was over. As the metal door closed again, Ruth's mind raced. What had her son seen? Could it save her? Or was it just the imagination of a child? That night, alone in her cell, Ruth prayed silently. "God, protect my son and let the truth shine, no matter how dark the lies." The day of the hearing arrived. The courthouse was filled with whispers, and the heavy sound of shoes echoing against stone floors. News reporters stood outside with cameras, eager to capture the scandal. A millionaire accusing her maid of stealing a diamond was a story that the city would never ignore. Inside the courtroom, Ruth sat at the defendant's table. She wore a plain dress, borrowed from a charity group, because her own clothes were considered too poor for court. Her wrists trembled as she folded her hands together. She felt the weight of eyes judging her from every corner. Some looked at her with pity, others with suspicion. David sat beside her lawyer, holding his mother's hand tightly. His little fingers gripped hers with all the strength he had. His eyes scanned the room like a soldier preparing for battle. He was only 8, but something inside him told him that this was not just another day. This was the day his mother's life could be destroyed. Then came Catherine. She entered the courtroom like a queen entering her throne room. Dressed in a tailored navy suit and pearl earrings, she walked with confidence. Her presence commanded attention. She sat on the witness side. Her lips pressed tightly together, her chin lifted high. To the world, she looked like a woman betrayed, a victim of greed. The judge, a stern man with silver hair, adjusted his glasses and spoke firmly. "We are here to determine the guilt or innocence of Ruth Johnson in the matter of the missing diamond necklace belonging to Mrs. Catherine Miller." A hush fell over the courtroom. Every detail mattered now. Ruth lowered her head and whispered to David, "Stay strong." The trial began. Catherine was the first to be called to the stand. She placed her hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth, and sat down confidently. Her lawyer began with gentle questions. "Mrs. Miller, can you tell the court when you last saw your diamond necklace?" "Yes," Catherine answered smoothly. "It was in my bedroom, inside a velvet case. On the evening of June 5th, the next morning, it was gone." "And who had access to your room?" "Only Ruth," Catherine replied. She looked directly at Ruth as if each word was a knife meant to wound. "She has been my maid for years. She cleans my room daily. She was the only one who could have taken it." Gasps and murmurs filled the courtroom. Catherine's calm, commanding voice sounded convincing. She described how Ruth often lingered near her jewelry case. She even claimed she had once seen Ruth staring at the necklace longer than necessary. "Did you confront her?" the lawyer asked. "Of course," Catherine said, her tone sharp, and she denied it immediately, without hesitation. That denial sounded rehearsed to me. A guilty woman always denies quickly. Ruth felt tears sting her eyes. She wanted to shout that it was all lies, but her lawyer squeezed her arm gently, reminding her to stay quiet until her turn. The judge listened carefully, writing down notes. To many in the room, Catherine's words were persuasive. She was rich, respected, and carried herself with dignity. Ruth, in contrast, looked fragile, her clothes plain, her eyes tired. In the cruel eyes of society, the balance of credibility leaned heavily toward Catherine. David, however, saw something else. Sitting beside his mother, he studied Catherine's face. He noticed the way her eyes flickered when she spoke certain words, the way her lips tightened when she said his mother's name. It was as if she was forcing herself to hold on to her story. He leaned close to his mother and whispered, "She's lying. I can tell." Ruth pressed his hand and whispered back, "Be careful, my son. Truth is heavy, but never let it go." Now it was Ruth's turn. The bailiff called her to the stand. She walked slowly, her steps heavy, her heart pounding. She placed her hand on the Bible and sat down, feeling the stares of everyone in the room. Her lawyer began softly. "Mrs. Johnson, did you steal the necklace?" Ruth lifted her chin, her voice shaking but steady. "No, sir, I did not." "Have you ever stolen anything in your life?" "Never. I was raised to work hard and live honestly. I clean houses, I wash clothes, I take care of my son. That is my life. I would never risk everything for something that does not belong to me." Her words carried pain, but also truth. The lawyer continued, "Can you tell us what that necklace means to you?" Ruth sighed deeply. "Nothing. Diamonds shine, but they do not feed my son. They do not pay for his school books. They do not heal his fevers at night. To me, my son's smile is worth more than any jewel. That is the only treasure I need." For a moment, silence filled the courtroom. Even the judge looked at her with softened eyes. But Catherine's lawyer quickly stood. "Mrs. Johnson, you expect us to believe that you, a woman living in poverty, never felt tempted by a necklace worth more than your lifetime earnings?" Ruth answered firmly, her voice louder now. "Yes, because my dignity is worth more than money. Because my son deserves a mother he can be proud of, not a thief." David's eyes shone with pride as he heard those words. He wanted to stand and clap for his mother. But he stayed quiet, remembering that this was not over yet. The judge wrote more notes, but he still looked uncertain. Words could be heartfelt, but without proof. They could not outweigh the missing diamond. As Ruth stepped down from the stand, David held her hand tightly. His little heart was racing. He knew something that the court did not know. He had seen something with his own eyes on the day the necklace vanished, and he was beginning to realize that he might be the only one who could save his mother. The courtroom was about to dismiss for the day when a small, trembling voice broke the silence. "Your Honor, can I say something?" Every head turned. It was David. His little figure looked fragile in the large wooden courtroom, but his eyes were burning with courage. Some laughed softly, others whispered. A child speaking in court was unusual, even absurd. The judge frowned at first, then studied the boy's face. He saw no mischief there, only desperation. With a sigh, he nodded. "Go ahead, young man, but speak only the truth." David walked forward slowly, clutching his toy car in his pocket for courage. He stood in the center, his voice shaking. "My mama did not steal that necklace. I saw something the day it disappeared." The room fell silent. Catherine shifted uncomfortably in her seat, her hands tightening around her purse. David continued, his voice growing stronger. "I was playing in the hallway. I saw Mrs. Miller go into her study with a red box. It had gold edges and a lock. She put the diamond necklace inside and told her driver to move it. She told me not to tell anyone, but I remember. I remember everything. Gasps filled the courtroom. Journalists scribbled furiously. Catherine's face lost its color. The judge leaned forward. "Mrs. Miller, is there such a box in your study?" Catherine stammered. I do not recall. But the damage was done. The seed of doubt was planted. Catherine's lawyer rushed to recover. He stood and addressed the boy sharply. "Young man, you are only 8 years old. Children imagine things. Perhaps you dreamed this or confused it with another day." David shook his head firmly. "No, I know what I saw. The box was on the left shelf in her study. My mama never goes in there. Only Mrs. Miller does." The lawyer smirked. "You expect us to believe the testimony of a child over the word of a respected woman like Mrs. Miller?" David's eyes filled with tears, but he did not back down. "You should believe me because I do not lie. My mama taught me that truth matters even when no one believes you. I am telling the truth. She is innocent." The judge raised a hand. Silencing the room, "Enough. We will order a search of Mrs. Miller's study immediately. If the boy is lying, it will be revealed. If he is telling the truth, justice will be served." Catherine's hands trembled. For the first time, she looked afraid. The next day, detectives arrived at Catherine's mansion with a search warrant. They went straight to the study. The staff gathered in nervous silence. Within minutes, one of the officers called out, "Sir, we found something." From the left shelf, they pulled out a red box with gold edges. Inside lay the missing necklace, glittering under the light. It was untouched, just as David had described. The news spread like fire. The courtroom was packed the next morning. When the necklace was presented as evidence, the audience gasped. Catherine's face turned pale. She tried to speak, but no words came out. The judge's voice thundered. "The evidence is clear. The necklace was hidden in Mrs. Miller's own study. Ruth Johnson is innocent of all charges." Ruth's knees gave way. She collapsed into her son's arms, sobbing. David held her tightly, whispering, "I told you. Mama, I told you I would save you." Reporters scribbled. Photographers clicked. The courtroom had just witnessed a miracle, the courage of a child defeating the lies of the powerful. Catherine faced her own consequences. She was charged for filing a false report, for defaming an innocent woman, and for attempting to misuse the law. Her reputation, once polished and respected, was destroyed overnight. Meanwhile, Ruth walked out of the courtroom as a free woman. The air felt lighter, the sky brighter. Yet her heart was not filled with anger. Instead, she felt gratitude. Gratitude to her son who had saved her. And gratitude to the truth that refused to stay hidden. Journalists crowded around her, microphones flashing. "Ruth, how does it feel to be free? What do you have to say to Mrs. Miller?" Ruth looked at them calmly. "I will not waste my breath on anger. My son taught me that truth has power, no matter how small the voice. That is what matters today." Her words touched many hearts. People who once doubted her now looked at her with admiration. Months later, Ruth rebuilt her life. She started a small cleaning business of her own. This time, she chose her clients carefully, only those who respected her dignity. Step by step, she grew stronger, no longer a victim, but a survivor. David, inspired by what had happened, threw himself into his studies. One evening, Ruth asked him, "David, why do you study so hard now?" He smiled and replied, "Because one day I will be a lawyer. I want to fight for people like you, Mama, so no one else has to suffer the way you did." Ruth hugged him, tears filling her eyes. "You saved me once. I know you will save many more." Their story spread through the community. Teachers told it in classrooms. Churches shared it in sermons. Neighbors whispered it with respect. It became more than just a courtroom drama. It became a lesson for all that truth, no matter how small, can rise above lies. And that, sometimes. The smallest voice in the room is the loudest when it speaks with courage. Moral of the story is that truth is stronger than wealth, stronger than lies, and stronger than prejudice. Even the smallest voice can bring justice when it refuses to stay silent. Your turn. What's the life lesson you're walking away with? Tell us in the comments. Like and subscribe the channel for more interesting videos.